Hello, 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 my friends. Rusty back with you yet again on another afternoon, tracking some strong storms across Central Florida. Great to see you. I hope everything is well. We'll talk about what's happening for today. Every day is always a little bit different, and we'll talk about what I expect for the rest of the afternoon hours and into the evening. But we do have a strong storm right now over Metro Orlando. As we get into that, as always, CFLW is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys, offering free consultation and policy reviews. Friends, they'll walk you through the insurance claim process. You get caught up in that and you need to check them out. All you got to do is head to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. Our camera network across all of Central Florida continues to monitor the situation for you here. You're looking at 5 of our cameras in the Metro Orlando area, and it is a quite stormy late afternoon across the area right now. So let's get into what's happening across the region. We'll take a look at our camera network coming up here in just a second. Great to see everyone on this Tuesday afternoon. I hope you're doing well, my friends. Now look, today the storms, as far as intensity, haven't been as robust, and the storms haven't been as widespread for today. It's been a relatively marginal day, but this storm that has been situated over portions of Orange County has flared up a bit, enough where we're starting to see some winds being produced out of it up to around 50 miles an hour. So we do have a special weather statement in effect for portions of Orange County that's sneaking into the northern sides of Osceola County as well. And again, the threat here is going to be mainly winds of 50 miles an hour. The airport there, MCO, starting to kick up some of those strong winds right now. Again, gusts could easily be in that 40 to 50 mile an hour range. Just like yesterday, decent forward speed to the storm. Southeast at around 22 miles an hour. Orlando, Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Winter Park, and Wedgefield all included within this special weather statement. We got to watch out as well for some heavy rain producing some ponding on roadways. You can see the overall impacts at the bottom of your screen. That is kind of directly from Weather Service offices and the Storm Prediction Center as some of the potential impacts we could see for today. But so far, the storms, for the most part, have behaved. So, strong thunderstorm will impact southern Orange, northern Osceola counties through 5:45. Got a Doppler radar tracking a thunderstorm over Lake Nona, or OIA moving southeast at around 20. And again, your threat is going to be winds of 50 miles an hour. Orlando, Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Winter Park, and Wedgefield included within this. Now, the special weather statement goes up to the 408 corridor of downtown Orlando, including places like Union Park and Baldwin Park. But already, some of the heaviest activity has begun to move away from that area. We have our camera here in Conway. You can see that in the bottom left-hand side of your screen, and that camera is showing you a pretty active view, as are the southeast and southwest Sand Lake cameras. So these are the 3 cameras here in our network that are closest to this thunderstorm. We have our Lake Buena Vista camera as well. And, you know, again, the lightning right now, it's up about 175 lightning strikes in the last 15 minutes. Can't rule out some small hail. It's not a huge threat for today. I think if we get a little bit of hail, that's going to be in the pea-sized variety, but torrential downpours, a fair amount of lightning, and the gusty winds, just like yesterday. Again, those winds will probably peak a little bit higher over Meadow Woods, Medical City, Lake Nona, back down again to Buenaventura Lakes, where we had the really nasty storms yesterday. The special weather statement goes as far east as the Wedgefield area, and then additional thunderstorms have developed in portions of Brevard County. Again, they haven't warranted a special weather statement so far, but they are producing widespread winds of 30 and 35 miles an hour, just kind of below that criteria. So I'll throw this into motion over the last half hour for you guys. You know, earlier today we had a special weather statement here and there in our far northern areas. You can see the winds that was produced out of some of the activity earlier today up in places like Daytona Beach and in the New Smyrna Beach area, where they did have some gusts again hitting around 40 miles an hour. Now, one thing that you're going to see here again, look at the top left-hand side of your screen. You're going to see some of those SLCs, those scary-looking clouds out there with the lower bases. Let me show you that right now from the Sand Lake camera, a really clear view of that special weather statement. You can clearly see the lowering in effect. Now, one of the reasons why I came on is, even though we only have one special weather statement, there is the opportunity that as we move over the next hour, that these storms could ramp up in intensity a bit. right over the southern and eastern sides of Metro Orlando one more time. So better safe than sorry. Better to keep an eye on it with you guys live here than, have to jump on and play catch up. I don't do that. We're going to always stay ahead of the storm here at Central Florida Weather Live. But a clear classic lowering of that cloud deck, that shelf cloud that is moving into the southern areas. If you do live in southern sides of Metro Orlando, you're seeing a lot of those looking clouds out there. Again, I'll monitor the situation for any isolated rotation out of these storms. The Weather Service office, just like they kind of do a lot of times, they talk about, look, the tornado threat is low, but it's also not zero when you have a little bit of turbulence in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. Typically speaking, with that environment, just like we had yesterday, you get the opportunity for more robust downburst winds, which are straight line winds. Again, if you joined me yesterday near the Buenaventura Lakes area, we had 75 and maybe even 85 mile-an-hour winds. So I'm just going to check this out real quick on our velocity product. If we need to get back into the MCO radar, we will. All green right here, that is going to be your gust front out ahead of the storms. The brighter the greens, the higher the wind speeds are going to be. So we'll take a look at those right now. Right over Lake Nona, we're likely seeing some winds at this point in time that are exceeding 40 and probably 50 miles an hour in a couple of areas. So extremely strong, potentially damaging winds over Lake Nona. Again, the special weather statement is for 50 mile an hour winds. And I do believe that's probably verifying right now in the Lake Nona area. So stormy here, moving off towards the south and to the east. The storm itself is as far back to the west as Celebration, Four Corners, Lake Buena Vista, Hunters Creek, I Drive as well. So dark gray skies here in the southern sides of Metro Orlando. Again, kind of gnarly looking clouds from time to time. You can clearly see the gust front and the outflow boundary from the thunderstorms that has worked its way all the way into places like Melbourne and Ogallie and Palm Bay. Now, just like yesterday, just like the last couple of days, as the storms move towards the coast, they slow up in forward speed, and the opportunity for some additional heavy rain or at least some lingering storms is likely along our east coast. Scattered showers that have been basically more garden variety, more traditional storms for today have been more prevalent along our western areas. There's a few areas of scattered showers out there, but nothing that's extremely organized. Again, right now, there really is one core storm to be tracking. It doesn't necessarily have to be several severe thunderstorm warnings for me to jump on. This is an impactful storm, and there is an opportunity here over the next bit of time that this storm could pulse up a little bit in intensity. So we're going to keep an eye on it for you guys together. Good to see everyone for today. How is everyone doing? I'll jump into the chat. Good to see you, Fiona. I hope you're doing well. Benjamin says it is pouring in Conway right now. Yes, indeed it is. We've got our cameras that you guys will see up as well. Good to see you today, Charles. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in today as well. Getting real dark at BVL. Thank you very much for that, Dolores. What up, Bright Dub Yo? Good to see you, XRP Plumbing. I'm doing fine. Just tracking these storms with you again for today. You got it, no problem. Ogallie in the house. Hey, Asher, how you doing? Conway checking in. We just lost power here due to a large close strike for a minute. I've seen some strong gusts, but no hail here. Yeah, I'm not expecting there to be a huge hail threat for today, thankfully, okay? More than likely, your threats, which scroll at the bottom of your screen, are going to be wind gusts that could hit 50 and 60 miles an hour. We had 60 plus mile an hour winds yesterday. That's possible again for today as well. Again, I want to keep on this camera because that's a gnarly looking cloud moving into the southwest Sand Lake. So again, that camera is looking south and west at this point in time. And it's a gnarly looking cloud moving there. Torrential downpours could lead to some flooding. Small hail, but hopefully not large enough to produce any issues there. And then, again, a brief or a weak funnel cloud or a water spout is not out of the question. The chance is low, but it's still not zero for today. All right? That's what it looks like in Sand Lake. That's what it looks like in Lake Buena Vista at the hour. Again, a little bit lighter sky there, but still more lightning, more storms working its way back over portions of the southwest side of Metro Orlando. But again, that's the big story here. That's our live camera from Sand Lake looking south and west. I'll keep an eye on the terminal Doppler if I need to. I think as it gets a little bit closer, I'll switch over to those winds in just a minute. But again, I would expect 40 and 50-mile-an-hour winds in a very widespread fashion. And just like yesterday, that was the story yesterday as well, right? The fact that we had a lot of wind there. And again, just really, really interesting clouds. Guys, take a look at what's happening here. Let's go quad box real quick with our cameras. Look at this Sand Lake camera here for a second. Isn't that some unbelievable stuff there? That is quite gnarly indeed with the Sand Lake camera. So pretty interesting there to see that situation for us here. And again, expecting that to be something that's quite impressive. No doubt about it. Wow. Okay. So that's our quad box with our southeast camera. And the southeast camera, by the way, we name it that because it's looking over Epic Universe. So it just gives us the direction of where we're looking at this point in time. So that's our Epic cam there. Let me show you that to you straight up full. Again, look at the lowerings associated with that storm. Storm looks to be intensifying. It's quite strong right now. Now, regardless of whether, we're going to get a severe thunderstorm warning or not, you're still going to have some dark skies, heavy rainfall, frequent lightning, potentially winds that could cause some damage. 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds in a pretty wide variety. Okay, Shleb, I'll take a look at it. I mean, you can clearly see the turbulence in the atmosphere right here, guys, right? If you look at our cameras from the Sand Lake area, you can see the clear turbulence that's in the sky right now. There is at least some broad rotation within this, okay? Just like we had yesterday. Sometimes when you have the dry air at the mid-levels of the atmosphere, this can also produce those downburst winds like we had in Buenaventura Lakes. Now, that is air rushing from the collapsing part of a cell that hits the ground, spreads out in all directions, and really picks up forward speed as it does. That's what we saw yesterday in the Buenaventura Lakes area. That is still possible again this afternoon in some of these areas. And again, just one more quick look here. It's a really interesting shot from Sand Lake, and you can see the low base to that kind of feeding into that storm right now. Some lightning in the distance as well. Okay, let's get back out. I want to bring the radar back up for you guys. They have reissued the special weather statement. Now, the track of this cell is going to be east of south, all right? So continuing through southeast Metro Orlando, this part of the cell, to be quite honest, is just as strong. They could easily issue a special weather statement here for Lake Buena Vista, Hunters Creek, Celebration, Campbell, Kissimmee, Buenaventura Lakes, and Meadowwoods. But they'll continue with the special weather statement for this segment of the storm until 6:15. Southeast at 18 miles an hour, winds of 50. Again, Orlando, but not downtown, Wedgefield, OIA, Narcoossee, and the Lake Hart areas. And there's your gust front from the storm. I will check out the winds right now out of the terminal Doppler. Just got to zoom in and find it because it's right here, basically in between those cells. Now remember, it is a much smaller radar overall and doesn't have the distance, but for the up close, we can take a look at it. Remember yesterday, right here, we found those really strong winds. There's a little bit of broad rotation right here, okay? Now I'm going to show you something. If I go back over to reflectivity, there's just this little pocket right here, and the radar is right here. So you get this cone of silence, basically, right near the radar. There looks to be a little bit of an inflow notch kind of coming back into this part of the cell right there. So if I go over to velocity, you can see, I didn't even have to look at velocity to tell where that inflow notch is. And right here is where we do have a little bit of broad rotation. It likely is a very similar perspective to what you saw with our cameras here in Sand Lake. All right. That kind of lowering base is likely a very common sight in these areas. But right in here, again, nothing too alarming right now, but some broad rotation in that spot. Now, what we more than likely have to watch out for more than anything is that we do get a collapsing part of this and we get a big downburst, a big push of wind. So far, the winds here from the terminal Doppler look a lot nicer than yesterday. Here's a little cluster of stronger winds right here, but again, not nearly as outrageous as yesterday afternoon. Again, overall, the storms have been behaving themselves a little bit better so far today. But this storm is a gnarly one on the southeast side of Metro Orlando that, again, has the opportunity to still get stronger as well. All right. See our other cameras here. We've got Conway on the top of your screen now, Winter Garden. If you live in the western side of Orange County, Winter Garden off to the south, still the opportunity for some storms beginning to clear out. Just like the last couple of afternoons, my friends, I do expect it that once it moves through your area, you're likely going to be just fine. All right. I'm going to go back over to the Melbourne radar to give you the broad perspective. We're likely to continue to see some rain in our northwest areas, but thinning out already. Some light to moderate rain in our northern and eastern areas, but beginning to thin out a little bit as well. The atmosphere still fairly conducive for stronger storms this afternoon, just like they've done the last 4 or 5 days. The Storm Prediction Center started off this morning with us not being under a risk for storms for organized, and then they threw us under a marginal risk. It's not as widespread as yesterday, but it's close. It's Orlando to Daytona Beach and then back in southeast areas. So they expected this line to develop, push to the south, bring it the potential for some storms that could produce some winds of over 60 miles an hour and some flooding and some frequent lightning. So that's the risk that we're under at this point in time. Marginal risk, 1 out of 5 on the scale, just like yesterday. But so far, the storms have not been as widespread. Now again, gnarly looking sky in Sand Lake. While we have this camera, I got to keep an eye out for this. Now look, I want to also be clear about this. Epic Universe is right over that stand of trees. We can see the fireworks from Epic Universe, the new Universal theme park, easily from this camera. It's not that far off of the distance at all. That's the thunderstorm right now that is moving through that part of Metro Orlando. You can see the lower bases. You can see the sharp edge to the clouds as well. It's another good indication that there's a lot of turbulence in the atmosphere and the thick, dark rain shaft down there too. Not a lot of rain chances coming to Spring Hill. Not expecting a lot of rain in Spring Hill for today, no. Maybe an isolated shower, but that would be about it. Schleb says, a beautiful shelf cloud. Yes, indeed it is. What's it looking like? Orange Avenue, downtown Orlando, should be improving within the hour. The storm is moving away from that area. So I do expect for downtown Orlando things to be improving. We did have some pretty good street flooding. And I'm talking about cars going through flooded waters yesterday through portions of Metro Orlando. Hopefully not the case again for today. All right. Again, this storm a little bit quicker in and out of the area. So hopefully that's not the case. Now, I just told you 3 minutes ago that this part of the cell in southwest Orange County looked just as healthy as the area that had the special weather statement. Well, now they've slapped one on there. And again, not surprised one bit for that to be the case. So now we have 2 special weather statements, southern Orange County and into the northern sides of Brevard County. Both of them go for the same amount of time. Basically, this part cranked up pretty quickly, and the Weather Service said, shoot, we should have probably just made the whole area. a special weather statement. So they just made that last part, kept the same time frame, kept the same potential impacts. Special weather statement now in effect for Kissimmee, Bay Lake, Celebration, Buenaventura Lakes until 6:15. Again, good forward speed with these storms. East at around 20 to 25 miles an hour. The actual bulletin for the National Weather Service office: strong thunderstorm impacting southwest Orange, north central Osceola County through 6:15. Tracking a thunderstorm over Buenaventura Lakes moving east at 25. And again, winds of 50 will be the primary threat. Look, 50-mile-an-hour winds can still cause some damage. It can knock down trees, take down some power lines, can throw around loose, unsecured objects in your yard. Hopefully no hail out of this for today. Please respect these storms. The lightning is a serious situation. When thunder roars, you head indoors. Just play it safe. Let these storms pass you by before you get back out. 35-mile-an-hour winds still at the airport. We'll see what's happening in the airport down here in Kissimmee. And again, let's track this out for you here. I'll start. This eastern storm is going to begin to move into a little bit more rural areas of eastern Orange and northeastern Osceola. So the one that is actually going to have a little bit more in the way of impacts to larger areas of population is going to be our south and west storm. As it tracks off towards the south and to the east. We'll put it at around 20 right now. So some of the other areas that is likely to impact will include Campbell at 5:57, St. Cloud at 6 o'clock, Harmony 6:23, Holopau in at 6:41. This storm could still build through Celebration and the Champions Gate area, but a little bit more significant farther off towards the east. It also looks like these cells are beginning to almost merge up. So they're becoming one. They'll glom together, if you will, and then they'll track their way off, continuing to the south and to the east, just like they have the last several afternoons. Again, live look from our cameras here across Central Florida on the left-hand side of your screen. We do have a whole network of cameras for you guys that will continue to monitor. You see we have Conway on the top left-hand side of your screen. That's Winter Garden on the top left-hand side of your screen. I'm looking backwards, so I always have to remind myself, what are you guys looking at? So top left is going to be Conway, top right's Winter Garden. Bottom of your screen, two cameras in Sand Lake, one pointing southwest, one pointing southeast. We have what's going on right now in Lake Buena Vista as well. We'll get back to that camera in just a second. Once again, CFLW is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. They offer a free consultation and policy reviews, and they'll walk you through that insurance claim process. Check them out by going to Lean On Me Law if you guys would like more information. All right, let's reset our Disney cam here real quick. And again, Conway had the thunderstorm moving through. Winter Garden right now has a storm to the south, but to the due west of Winter Garden, we're okay. In Lake Buena Vista, fairly covered up right now. Scattered showers, thunderstorms. Watch out for the lightning threat. Again, got to let this storm pass by. When thunder roars, you head indoors before you want to head on out there. Switch on over to our other cameras. We have our Sand Lake cameras here. Again, good thunderstorms, low base, shelf clouds. Got to watch out for the winds. Stay away from north and west side of facing windows. Just respect that storm. Let it swing on by through your area before you get back out. Again, not expecting these storms, just like yesterday, to stick around in one area for too long of a time. Good forward speed. There's an opportunity as we go through the 6 o'clock hour that as they move to the south, they pick up a little bit more intensity. Temperatures, again, were very hot for today. These areas have not had thunderstorm development so far. So at least for a little bit, the atmosphere is still prime. Now, again, I like what we've seen so far today relative to what we've had the last couple of days. The storms have not been as numerous. They haven't been as impactful, but I knew that there was an opportunity here that this could get a little gnarlier late in this 5 o'clock hour and early into the 6 o'clock hour. Storms continue here out in portions of Brevard County. Told you guys we have a ton of reporting stations, and they're all showing mainly 30-plus-mile-an-hour breezes from time to time, quick passing showers in a couple of spots. Once again, the East Coast sea breeze, as shown by this green line, has pinned along the coast. So the same movement the last few afternoons is what I expect for today. Faster forward speed in interior locations. Once they hit the coast, they'll slow up a little bit, where again, some rainfall rates could produce an inch or two, maybe even more in an hour. And we could see some ponding on roadways and low level flooding. But there were a couple of spots yesterday where the water really collected and we had some problems with cars going through some extremely elevated water conditions. And hopefully that's not the case again for today. MCO's last report's 28, conditions slightly better there. We'll see what's happening in Kissimmee here as well. And again, if you live north and west of Metro Orlando, things have been improving a little bit quicker for today. Scattered showers, Polk, portions of Hillsborough County haven't ramped up too much at the hour. Little thunderstorm there, looks like on the southern side of Hillsborough County is what it looks like from the radar in Tampa. Again, we still have a ton of energy. We have our system sitting on the northern side of the Gulf, kicking out waves of energy and helping to promote these thunderstorms, and also that northwest to southeast movement. That's the one reason why the prevailing winds are still out of the west. So just like yesterday afternoon, spotty showers have developed through portions of Hillsborough. We'll see if they ramp up any more. A couple of showers near Plant City, one over the Polk City area, a little bit wet over I-4, a little bit of rain towards Bayonet Point, Arapika, Spring Hill up 19 towards Weeki Wachee, and Bayport, relatively dry at this point in time. Good to see you, Jared. Hope you're well. Hi, Alice. How are you? Viewing from Ocala up in Marion County. Cloudy with a little bit of rain. Stay safe out there, everyone. Appreciate it. Again, we're a little bit drier out to the west. We say hello to Brian from sunny Clearwater. Appreciate you. Charles, good to see you again, my friend. Thanks for being a moderator. Thanks for jumping into the chat, letting everyone know to smash that subscription button and the likes. Of course, the channel is always free. Jared back in the house as well. A little bit of rain so far in Port St. John, but not bad. Just 0.06 of an inch of rain. Again, the storms overall not as strong as what they were the last couple of days. Certainly not as widespread. You know, this was certainly a day where we need to come on. We need to watch this. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse. All right. We can see the reflectivities pulsing up a bit just south of St. Cloud. So there is that opportunity that this cluster could go a little bit more robust and potentially even severe through the 6 o'clock hour. But they're not as widespread as what they were yesterday. So it really is more of feast and famine with the thunderstorms for today. They were somewhat more prevalent in our northern areas earlier in the day. If you guys are just tuning in right now, I'll show you what happened a little bit earlier in our afternoon hours. No severe thunderstorm warnings so far today, but up through portions of Marion and Lake and Volusia counties, we had a little bit stronger storms earlier in the day. You can see we had one special weather statement here. That storm pushed off into Brevard County very quickly. And then these storms have gotten a little bit more in the way of impacts here, because most of the special weather statements earlier in the day were just for winds of 40 miles an hour, but these storms have a little bit more bite in the southern sides of Orange County, as they're now producing winds potentially up to 50. Dolores just heard rain and thunder BVL, not as bad as yesterday. I hear you. Clearwater definitely needs some rain. Western areas need some rain. Let me be clear. We're all still technically under a drought, or dry, or abnormally dry. One of the two categories. Only the far sliver of the East Coast is beginning to eat their way out of that abnormally dry conditions. So once again, great to see you guys on this Tuesday afternoon at 6:03. We continue to monitor strong storms in the southern sides of Metro Orlando through the northern sides of Osceola County. You live in places like Celebration, Champions Gate, on over towards Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Harmony, Holopaw, back up towards MCO and Lake Nona. You're being impacted by these storms. Gnarly looking skies right now, just some rowdy storms across this area. Nice shot from our southeast Sand Lake cam of that lowering, that shelf cloud. And just as I said that, they went severe. They went severe on that thunderstorm. And again, this is why I jumped on, guys. You know, I've been doing this long enough. I can see the trend, and I knew that there was going to be an uptick potential here in the south side of the Metro Orlando area. So I'll get you the details on the severe thunderstorm warning that is currently in effect right now, and that's southeast view of Sand Lake. So we're looking back to the severe thunderstorm part of our cluster of storms. So the severe thunderstorm part of our cluster is south and east of Sand Lake. Here you go, and you can see it right there. So let me get you the details on that. Severe thunderstorm warning until 6:30. Motion here is east, maybe slightly south of east. We've got 3/4 inch size hail. East Lake Tahoe, Narcoossee, Austin Tyndall Park, Pine Grove areas included. So this storm is eking along the 417 and other areas of populated southeast side of Orange County, and then hopefully staying just south of there. But there are some areas that are going to be impacted by that, and you see them on your screen. This is going to be from the National Weather Service office. Severe thunderstorm warning for north central Osceola County until 6:30. Severe thunderstorm near Narcoossee, moving east at 20, 60-mile-an-hour winds, 3/4 inch size hail. So as this storm picks up in intensity, we also pick up the opportunity for a little bit of hail through this storm. Again, hopefully not strong enough where we're going to have, and large enough where we have a lot of issues here, but we do have to watch out for that. So now at this point in time, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning for Orange County. Just jumping back into the chat. Schlepp says 60-mile-an-hour winds north of St. Cloud. Indeed, indeed. So again, if you live in these areas under the severe thunderstorm warning, your primary threat is going to be 60-mile-an-hour winds, maybe some marginally severe hail. And what I mean by that is hail that could have the opportunity to produce some damage to your roofs or to your cars. 3/4 inch size hail, penny size hail is typically just below that, but it's really close. So again, East Lake Tahoe, St. Cloud area, moving off towards the east, scrubbing 192, likely the worst weather staying just to the south and east of places like Medical City, Lake Nona, Narcoossee, Lake Mary Jane, near and included in portions of the severe thunderstorm warning. The special weather statements continue for the next 8 minutes. Likely those will expire. Along the boundary, additional storms are rapidly developing along this boundary and continue to work their way off to the south. It's going to be another situation for today where southern and eastern areas will have the best chance for the remainder of the early evening hours. So through Osceola County, through central and the southern sides of Brevard County, back into Indian River County. Along this line, storms could get a little bit flared up from time to time, from Pinellas to Hillsborough and the northern sides of Polk County. And then north and west of that line, a little bit quieter conditions are expected there for the remainder of the day. We could still have a few storms that are off into the east Gulf waters work their way back into our west coast. We had one yesterday when we were towards the end of our coverage that moved into Pinellas County and produced a severe thunderstorm warning. I can't rule out that opportunity again for today, but just like yesterday, it's going to be on the isolated side more than anything. Hey, Mike, good to see you. Brandon in the house. Appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you're doing well on this Tuesday. Thanks for everyone tuning in. If you guys wouldn't mind, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button for the live stream. Let's get the audience numbers up. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. Appreciate the members of the channel as well. Again, if you're a member of the channel, your name will be in green in our live streams. You'll have access to custom badges and emojis during our live streams and access to exclusive member short videos in between these live streams. Again, this is a live-only channel. Severe thunderstorm warning for Osceola County. We're looking at that storm from the southeast view from Sand Lake. Again, right behind that stand of trees is the Epic Universe area. Lightning is going to be a very impactful part of this storm. We have about 250 lightning strikes in southern Orange and the northern sides of Osceola County right now, and that storm continues to track off towards the south and to the east. If you do live north and west of these areas, generally speaking, you're going to be in the clear for today. Again, not going to sit here and tell you, oh crap, everyone's going to get these storms, because it is a little bit more confined for these early evening hours. So if you do have plans and you live north and west of Metro Orlando, for the most part, things will be good. Now, one of the caveats would be if you live along the immediate west coast, keep an eye out to your west for the opportunity for a few storms to move in. A clear view of that would be right now what's happening in Winter Garden. And again, you can just see that some of the darker clouds on the left-hand side of your screen, those are the thunderstorms moving to the south and to the east. Behind it, still a veil of relatively thick cloud coverage, but a little bit of even, lighter hues to the sky in the upper levels of the atmosphere. The clouds are a little bit thinner, quicker for today. Should have a beautiful sunset on the way there. But again, looking improved in those areas on the western side of Orange County. This is a pretty cool shot. We have some gnarly clouds, some low SLCs, those scary looking clouds moving right over the Sand Lake camera as we speak. And then in the distance, as we look back to the south and to the west, you can see the clearer conditions there. So that's looking back kind of towards southwest sides of Orange County and sneaking into, far western sides of Osceola and into the northern sides of Polk. That's where that camera is looking at this point in time. Jody, good evening to you as well. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Alice. Hope you're doing well. Chris, I'd love to have a second to answer that question about hurricane season. I appreciate the kind words about that. What I would say is nothing has changed my opinion about generally what El Nino is likely to do, and that is to keep the Atlantic hurricane season quieter than normal. However, for Florida, that typically means the jet stream in the eastern part of the United States dives a little bit farther south, could keep us more active with our sea breeze storms or enhance the daily sea breeze storms. And if anything, sometimes you get some homegrown activity with El Nino in the Gulf, and we could still have somewhat of a busy season relative to what we normally see. It doesn't necessarily have to be completely shut off, but the Caribbean with the wind shear there and the Atlantic Basin typically have a lot lower opportunities for storms, although at some point in time in the season, things will always line up and we'll get some storms. It's just we're not going to have as many as typical. So I told you that the storms were also quickly developing to the south. Well, the Weather Service threw on another special weather statement as those storms have developed deeper into Osceola County. This is still going to include St. Cloud, Lake Kissimmee, Harmony, Forever, Florida, and Alligator Lake. So again, pushing to the east of I-4, south of 192, still portions of St. Cloud, clipping Harmony and Holopaw on 192, and then right down the turnpike. That's 91 on your map. So this storm has basically come right down the turnpike. And again, as always, even at 6 o'clock, this part of the turnpike into the 192 corridor up to the 417 is always snarled with traffic. It's bad. And then when you put some blinding rain association with this, it's going to be an issue as well. I'll check just to make sure that we don't have any flood advisories. I would not expect it as of yet, but we always have to stay vigilant for that. So this product is just going to load up and show me those. Marine warnings are out here in Brevard County. This is just a county by county look for me to see all of the advisories, watches, and warnings for any particular county. Once again, we are technically under a risk for severe storms, but I'm telling you right now, northern areas are cut off from that. It's everything from Orlando to the south and to the east. Notice again the far west coast, most of Hillsborough, most of Manatee, Sarasota, Pinellas, and basically all Pasco, Hernando, Citrus counties not technically under that marginal risk for severe storms. Make sure there's not what we call a mesoscale discussion. We had one yesterday about the severe weather risk. I don't see that. Excessive rainfall outlook for today while we're on some of these other products I show you guys. Again, was actually confined to northern areas. It's closer to where that trough is beginning to stall out because more frequent waves of rain is expected across I-10 for today. And again, we have good forward speed with our storms, so hopefully we don't get flooding in a widespread variety. All right, still could see some in a couple of locations. We had some high water yesterday, caused some problems in some of the area roadways. Going to bring up our wind gusts one more time. You can see that even the storms over Brevard County produced some 30 and 35 mile an hour winds. Now again, these storms are building east and southeast. If you live in Brevard County, Look back inland to your west. You're going to start to see these puppies move into your area. This is the interaction of the East Coast sea breeze and the gust front from these storms. So the outflow boundary is beginning to hit the East Coast sea breeze, and we're likely to see some storms fill back into these areas as well. Still generally kind of an east to southeast motion. I think some of the individual cells will go due east while the whole system tries to propagate more off towards the south. Again, appreciate our moderators in the chat. Hello, Gothic Unicorn. How are you doing? First of all, thank you for everyone who's in the chat right now. Again, the reason why this channel exists is it's a live interactive channel, all right? So I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what's happening in your area. Wisdom of the crowd, we call it. But more than anything, you guys letting me know what's going on in your area helps me out and also helps out everyone who's interested in what's going on into the chat. And again, we have a lot of technology here at CFLW, so we're going to continue to provide you with our live camera network. We've got several cameras across the area. You see 4 of those right now. I would venture to say that the most interesting part of that camera is going to be up right now in portions of southern sides of Orange County and back into Osceola County as well. So certainly a gnarly look to that sky there in the Sand Lake area. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I was working on something here. All right, so there's your Conway cam full. And you can see skies are a little bit clearer there. Show you Winter Garden full. That's what Lake Buena Vista looks like at this point in time. And then back out to our full camera look. So we'll have that opportunity to kind of sneak into some of those cameras. Now, the special weather statements up north, okay, have been allowed to expire. We would expect that the brunt of this storm is out of Orange County, all right? Now moving deeper into Osceola County and likely continuing to build off towards the east. Once again, at this point in time, we still do have a severe thunderstorm warning that is currently in effect for Osceola County. So severe thunderstorm warning is in effect right now. Next 13 minutes till 6:30. Areas included within the severe thunderstorm warning, which in those spots, you could expect some winds up to 60 miles an hour, maybe 3/4 inch size hail. East Lake Toho, Narcoossee, Austin Tyndall Park, and Pine Grove. Fair amount of lightning for today. Counts are high, but they're not outrageous. Remember yesterday, I mean, there were some storms that by themselves were producing 500 to 600 lightning strikes. Still fairly heavy rainfall. Kissimmee, Bonaventura Lakes, Hunters Creek, Meadow Woods, back towards Medical City. Beginning to improve a bit. Folks probably able to peek their heads back out over Lake Buena Vista and Celebration. Champions Gate, just a couple of scattered showers there towards Four Corners. Again, a few storms are beginning to fill in the gap through portions of Hillsborough and Polk counties. They're just beginning to ramp up. The Thondasassa area, just north of I-4, so Mango and Dover areas, Seffner, just north of there, east of Temple Terrace. A little bit of rain here near the Gibsonton area, Davis Island, MacDill Air Force Base. There's one of the storms I was mentioning. Can't rule out a couple of cells that have been hugging along the east coast and the coastal waters to sneak inland as everything is kind of moving off towards the east. So that's not out of the question again, especially for places like Pinellas and Pasco counties. Now the storms in Brevard County for the most part have behaved so far. All right. You can see the winds when I bring them back on, 30, 35 for most areas. But I will be curious to see as we go through the 6 o'clock hour how this plays out at this point in time. No need to track this storm yet, right? Just beginning to develop. And again, that's the spot that I was worried about. So there's your special weather statement. Expires 26 minutes for winds of 50. Here's the bottom line. The storms are heading into central and southern Brevard County. All right. We'll see what magnitude that they're going to take as they transpire into that area. I will say this. You want to talk lightning starting to get a little bit more active. Who lives in St. Cloud? If you live in St. Cloud, let me know. I appreciate you subbing in from Zephyr Hills. Thank you very much for that. Of course, I closed that tab, but luckily it came right back up. Solon says, just sub from Zephyr Hills. Well, welcome, Zephyr Hills. I hope you're doing well. Hello, hello. Thank you for tuning in. Linda back in the house again says, hi, Rusty. It's day 3. Feels like Groundhog Day. Thanks for keeping us with the weather aware. You are the best. Thank you, Linda, for that. I appreciate that. Linda in the house from Brevard County in the Titusville area. Brian letting everyone know that a name like Alligator Lake should be at your own peril if you would like to swim. I agree with that. Mimi's Viewpoint says, I'm in St. Cloud. Loving Life is also in St. Cloud. How are we doing? Let me know what the St. Cloud story is right now. You're on the tail end of this storm. Now, they did let the severe thunderstorm warning expire, okay? About 10 minutes early. That's good news. I like that. So we'll drop the severe thunderstorm warning for Osceola County, at least at this point in time. So these storms have been pulsing up a bit. Certainly the strongest storms that we've had all day long. Got a good pulse up, winds of 60. That died back down relatively quick. But our special weather statements are still holding on to winds of up to 50 miles an hour. So these are still teetering close to severe thunderstorm criteria. Again, if you live Orlando North, Altamont Springs, Sanford, Apopka, you are in the clear for the rest of the day. Again, I'm always going to tell you the honest weather story. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my God, look, we might have torrential thunderstorms redevelop in our northern areas. Likely not the case for today. Just like the last few days, we're tracking a line moving through. Now, it's not a clean line like a cold front coming in, but all the push is to the south and to the east. And behind these storms, we're still left with relatively overcast skies and the inability to redevelop stronger storms. The one caveat, as I've mentioned, West Coast could still see a few storms sneak their way back in from coastal waters. Places like Brandon, Carrollwood, Temple Terrace, Lakeland could still see a few stronger storms develop here. Notice it's basically right in the same line, if you will, as the storms that have been more robust back into portions of Osceola County, and again, moving south into the east. But if you live in Daytona Beach, if you live in Palm Coast, you're looking pretty good. So Love and Life says a lot of lightning there in the St. Cloud area. Appreciate that update. Yes, again, the lightning count has flared up. Now we're up to 400 lightning strikes. It's about the most I've seen today out of one core of storms. That's a tremendous amount of lightning. Again, look, some of the storms we had the last couple of days were some of the highest end when it comes to the lightning. So, we don't want to poo-poo on a thunderstorm that's producing 400 lightning strikes in a 15-minute time frame to go along with some torrential rainfall, including over the Turnpike and 192. So it's a rough go right now in the Turnpike area when you get south of Kissimmee in that long trek, if you will, all the way down towards Yeehaw Junction through Osceola County. Now again, a little bit more congested Merritt Island north for today. We've already had the rain come through. We've already had a lot of wind here. Nothing outrageous. I'll go over to the local storm reports. As I have told you guys, we are not wanting for reporting stations in Brevard County because of Cape Canaveral and the Space Force base. So we've got a 45 there, Playa Linda Beach. We've got a 43 at Kennedy Space Center. We've got a 41 at the Cape as well. So very solid winds across Cape Canaveral during the afternoon hours here. No other areas, I believe, in the short term have had any local storm reports, but we'll be monitoring that. The other situation is going to be the opportunity for some heavier rain and the flood that could come along with it. Now, again, fairly good forward movement to the cells. Not as concerned with this scenario as I would be if we were talking about storms that were moving very slowly or stationary. That does play a huge factor because you can get rainfall rates of 4 and 5 inches an hour, but if a storm is moving at 20, 25 miles an hour, you're going to likely get no more than half of that in any one location. Could see a few more pockets of higher rainfall there. But if we look, again, we still have some solid rainfall potential rates here of over 4 inches an hour near the Harmony area, near 91, just getting out of St. Cloud. So southern St. Cloud, still some heavier rain, still pockets of heavy rain here. You know, rain developing near Harmony, which could be 3 inches per hour. So there is still some water-loaded atmosphere down in these areas. But as long as we can move at 20 to 25, for the most part, we're going to be okay. Still were some high water areas yesterday, so I don't want to say we're completely out of the clear. Again, turn around, don't drown. I know you guys have probably heard that a lot of times, but it just makes a lot of sense. If you're unsure of the amount of water that's covering a roadway, don't even risk it. Hey, Rusty, a lot of thunder in Elfers. Appreciate that. So Masal, and again, I happen to read your handle, so I apologize if I'm mispronouncing or not saying exactly how you'd like it, but it says, hi, I just found you. Thank you for the eye in the sky. There's a tree about 15 to 20 feet tall down in St. Cloud off of 10th Street. So there you go. Some tree damage there. Widespread tree damage and some structural damage, especially to pool screens and patios yesterday in Buenaventura Lakes. And although the winds today out of these storms weren't as impressive, still strong enough to produce some tree damage and probably knocking out some screens in patio and pool cages. So thank you very much for that report, Masal. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for finding me. If you're here, appreciate you hitting that like button along with everyone else. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe as well. I do recommend having all notifications on for this channel, and the reason why I say that is because it's a live only channel. I'm only on when there's impactful weather across Central Florida. So hit that bell button, hit the notifications all, and when you get a notification from me, you know there is a reason to tune in. Again, monitoring the situation across Central Florida with our live network of cameras in the area. We've got you covered here. Let's go to the worst camera look, if you will, and that's going to be from the south and east of Sand Lake as we look back into those now special weather statement storms in the northern sides of Osceola County. 2 special weather statements continue for the next 18 minutes as those storms move off to the east and to the southeast. If you do live in Metro Orlando, things will begin to improve as we move through the 6 o'clock hour. That will be the reverse case for portions of Osceola and into Brevard counties as those storms will be moving your way again, with again the opportunity for additional storms to develop out in our western areas, but more in an isolated fashion. Conway looks pretty good at the hour as well. Again, still some low clouds out there. We can actually see some of those showers that are left over in northern Brevard County from this camera with the general eastern look to that camera. But again, over portions of downtown and southeast of downtown Orlando, we're looking okay so far. Still a rough sky over Sand Lake looking back south and to the west. Again, a lot of lowering for today. The old SLCs are certainly back in the house, those scary looking clouds. So the shelf clouds look pretty ominous with low bases and dark, a dark hue to them. Water-loaded atmosphere producing some heavier rain. Same situation as yesterday as well. You're going to get a good gust front out ahead of that, and with that gust front will be the opportunity to see some winds that could hit 40 and 50 plus miles an hour. So the storm, when we zoomed in, that was picking up intensity, has issued another severe thunderstorm warning. So basically what the Weather Service said is this part of our cluster of cells has weakened a little bit below severe thunderstorm criteria, but now south and west it's picking up a little bit more. So guess what? We're right back into a severe thunderstorm warning for Osceola County. Let me give the details on the new severe thunderstorm warning. Southeast at 15, slowing up a little bit. It's kind of still the same areas, especially with this special weather statement down here. It's Holopaw, it's Harmony, it's Forever, Florida, and it's Alligator Lake. 60-mile-an-hour winds, 3/4 inch size hail. Here is the bulletin from the National Weather Service office. We have a severe thunderstorm warning for northeastern Osceola County until 7 o'clock. Severe thunderstorm located near Holopaw, moving southeast at 15, winds of up to 60. Within this area, we do expect damage to roofs, siding, and trees. So again, one of the areas populated across 192 is our friends in Harmony, and you are under that severe thunderstorm warning. If you live in the Harmony area, if you live in St. Cloud, if you live in Holopaw, let me know in the comments section below what you guys are seeing. The brunt of that storm is kind of bracketing the turnpike in 192 right now as it continues to push off towards the south and to the east. Again, if you live in Brevard County, especially the southern and maybe south central sides of Brevard County, these storms are trying to race your way. You look back inland, you're seeing some gnarly looking skies there moving into your area. Susie's in the chat talking about St. Cloud as well. So really intense over St. Cloud. Yeah, the lightning is crazy intense right now. Just going to look at velocity here. All right, so that is a tremendous amount of wind over Holopaw. That is problematic wind. So now in Holopaw, you're going to have a potential same situation developing as we had in Buenaventura Lakes yesterday. We're not at the 75s yet, but we are pushing 60. And that's going to be some damaging winds moving right through the Holopaw area. So again, embedded within this cell, high precipitation, right? If I show you reflectivity, really high precipitation, you do have some extremely intense rainfall. You got this little donut here, which is always an interesting situation as well. But I don't see anything gnarly velocity-wise with any spin. Look, could there be a lowering? Could there be some broad rotation? Yes. But all of this right now is generally straight line. What's interesting here, though, is it's trying to pick up some incoming and outgoing next to each other, but it's very, very sporadic. This is likely just some extremely intense downburst winds, because what happens is the winds hit the surface and spread out in all directions. So the radar really has a tough time picking up on the exact movement of where that is. That's why it's kind of elongated like this. I'm concerned for rotation, but I'm not nearly as concerned as if we had a really tight cluster here. We have what we call a couplet. This to me is more indicative of a downburst look, but extremely strong winds there. I'm going to switch back over to the terminal Doppler just to take a look at those winds one more time. I want to make sure we got our friends in Harmony and Holopaw covered. So you can see from this view, red away, by the way, right? When you're looking at these colors in the velocity product, whatever radar I'm picking up and looking at, red on the radar output shows winds going away from the radar site. Green is coming towards or incoming, all right? So here we can see that there are mainly straight line winds, but they are quite impressive over the Holopaw area. So we're likely seeing 60+ mile an hour downburst winds through here. You can see there's a little bit of gnarliness back south and west. It's mainly a whole line that's leading out. But these winds are very light. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see strong outgoing winds here. I certainly, when I zoom into Holopaw, don't want to see any strong incoming winds. All right? We don't want to see any green here. But this is the same setup as yesterday in Buenaventura Lakes. We get these downburst winds that can be extremely destructive. Anyone lives in this area, please let us know in the comment section below. Even if you typically don't chat. Again, we'd love to hear from you. All right. So that's a nasty storm over portions of Osceola County with likely destructive winds, unfortunately, in the Holopole area. Just one more look real quick from the terminal Doppler. Just want to make sure there's nothing that I'm missing here with any structure that would concern me beyond just strong straight line winds. So far, we're okay. Got to keep an eye on that, though. Again, this cell in northeast Hillsborough County has picked up a little bit, to be expected, just like we had yesterday. More isolated out west, but not as the fact that nothing's happening, right? So a few storms here, couple making a run towards the coast, Newport, Richey, Bayonet Point, but still many dry hours and locations out west. Interior and east, Brevard County, southeast Orange County, Osceola County, that's going to be the story over the next hour. Special weather statement on the northern side for winds of 50 miles an hour. Holopole, Narcoossee, Harmony, Alligator Lake. You're going to see a lot of the same areas under both special weather statements and the severe thunderstorm warning. Again, everything moving off to the south and to the east. Forward speed has slowed a little bit, maybe around 15 miles an hour right now. So again, that could lead to additional heavy rain and flooding in a couple of areas, anywhere from the Turnpike over to 192. Tech and Games X says north side of Alligator Lake here. It seems like it's calming down a little bit. Appreciate the report. Thanks for letting me know. Let us know maybe what you saw in that area too. I appreciate that. Richard has sprinkle and a breeze. And even on over towards Spring Hill, they had a quick shower pass by. Nice little drench of rain. Sometimes we like that for the yards. That's what we need, right? We still all need rain, as dry as we've been in 2026. It's gotten a lot better in the last month for most of us, but not for everyone, especially along the West Coast. Generally speaking, the farther east that you live, the more rain that you've seen here through the early part of the summer months. But we could all still use a lot more as dry as 2026 started for all of Florida. Appreciate that report, Scrap and Lizzie Art, and I hope you're doing well again for today as well. So the report of that was Oak Point subdivision backyard not affecting roads for that down tree. Likely we're going to get additional reports like that from time to time with these storms that are likely producing winds of up to 60 miles an hour. Again, they're not as widespread as yesterday, my friends. All right. So we've got a cluster of storms that developed right over the Metro Orlando area. They're moving off to the south and to the east. We have a few isolated showers developing along I-4 back into Hillsborough County. Again, a few passing showers near the coastal areas of Hernando and Pasco, maybe into Pinellas. We continue with some light to moderate rain. Still some gusty conditions from time to time for the northern half of Brevard County. And then everywhere north and west of there, you are likely to see a relatively quiet rest of your Tuesday evening. All right. Still overcast skies and some light rain, but nothing that I've seen, especially this late in the day, has me believing that additional heavy storms are likely to develop in our northern areas again. Now, could we run it back again tomorrow afternoon? It's not out of the question. Again, it seems like on a daily basis, keeping an eye on the system that's into the northern Gulf, kicking waves of energy through, hasn't dissipated in any way, shape, or form, and that we're getting enough mid-level kick to the atmosphere that it's helping to aid our sea breeze environment and produce what has mainly been the opportunity for some damaging wind gusts within some of the storms that have developed. Still expecting at some point this week that these storms will not be as robust or as widespread. I mean, today they were more isolated, and then we'll just have to see as we go through the rest of the week whether the storms tame themselves a little bit or whether we're still beyond tracking a few severe storms for you here on CFLW. Lone Star says, I appreciate your live coverage when severe weather is in the area. Thank you for what you do. I appreciate that, Lone Star. Thanks for taking a quick second and jumping in the chat and letting me know. As always, your kind words matter, and I do appreciate that. Love our subscribers, love our moderators, love our members of the channel. Thanks for everyone for helping to support the channel in that way. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning continues for Osceola County. Storms are trying to get their way out of Orlando a little bit earlier than what they did yesterday. If you live in Brevard County, these are the storms that are headed your way at this point in time. Still somewhat of a pretty dark sky from our cameras here in the southern sides of Metro Orlando. That's the storm from the southeast Sand Lake camera. Again, looking basically right over the Epic Universe area. And you can see that storm pulling away, but still a lot of gray sky there in the Metro Orlando area. That storm, again, riding down places like 192 and the Turnpike. But if you give it the rest of the 6 o'clock hour and into the early 7 o'clock hour, things will be better here. Still have to be very, very cautious for the lightning potential, even in the southern sides of Metro Orlando. Not expecting it to be a large threat, but it's still a possibility. Lake Buena Vista looks pretty good, by the way. If you want to head out to the attractions for the fireworks displays a little bit later. Conway Cam continues to show some of the storms in northern Brevard County, but again, they're basically falling apart slowly. And there's a little bit of filtered sunshine a little bit earlier in the evening here in Winter Garden. Again, Winter Garden is in western Orange County. That camera is looking back off to the west where we can get some glorious sunsets from time to time. And we're thinning out the clouds just a little bit more here, again, north and west of the Metro Orlando area, slightly sooner than what we had been seeing. Okay. Thank you, Go Gators. I appreciate those kind words as well. Oh, the Fallen says, I'm seeing severe lightning on the corner of, is it Dienda and Diskick? Those are two that I'm very unfamiliar with. Where are we looking at city-wise, if you don't mind, Oh, the Fallen? Just let me know. But still getting some intense lightning within some of these storms, obviously. I mean, again, you know, the lightning is going to be quite frequent. Respect these storms if you're in this area. Got to watch out for the wind threat too. I'm going to check out our velocity product. Again, Holopaw, extremely strong winds, extremely strong winds. Let's query these. A few right around 50. Not great. We don't want to see winds that strong, especially because they could even be stronger at the immediate surface. So southern sides of Holopaw, right down 441. Those brighter colors on this product is going to show you the higher winds. So whether that's brighter green or brighter red, all right? Then you get into the pinks, then we got some problems. On the southern side of this severe thunderstorm warning, across the Turnpike, the winds are not as strong right now. So I do unfortunately believe that one of the only big populated areas here relative to where this severe thunderstorm warning is, which is the city of Holopaw, is getting the strongest winds. And I think it's very widespread in that 45 to 50, but probably 60 plus from time to time. Again, we saw even stronger winds the last time I checked in with this product. Hey, William, how you doing? William, you can finish your thought in another one. He said, just this Sunday, I took some ... Thank you, Dwayne. Appreciate you, man. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys taking part of your Tuesday and deciding that this is important enough to tune in. You know, that means a lot to me, right? That you guys have decided, you know what, this warrants my attention. So thank you for doing so as well. Again, Lean Law is a sponsor. If you are a business owner here in Central Florida or elsewhere, and by the way, we have viewers all over the world. I promise you that. So hello to our viewers in Canada and our viewers in Europe and our viewers in the Caribbean. I know you guys are watching and I appreciate you as well. It's a really cool thing to see where some of the viewers are here across YouTube. If you are a business and you're interested in sponsoring the channel, you can click or you can scan that QR code on the top left hand side of your screen. It gets us to our website, our email, gets you to our email. All you got to do is say, hey, Rusty, I'm interested in potentially sponsoring the channel or a camera, and I'd love to do some business with you, so let me know. Again, Lean Law is the sponsor of the channel right now. They are your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. So maybe you had some storm damage yesterday, Buenaventura Lakes area. You get, kind of snagged up in that insurance claim process, which is never fun. And I have personal horror stories about that. I can tell you that much for sure. They'll walk you through the process, and with free consultation and policy reviews, you got nothing to lose. So check them out at leanomnilaw.com for more information. So we're going to lose the special weather statements on both sides of our severe thunderstorm warnings, thunderstorm warning, and immediately. So we'll see what the Weather Service wants to do now. This cluster of activity certainly hasn't waned in intensity right now. It could absolutely be fired up again on the eastern sides, regardless if you live in places like Vieira and Suntree, Satellite Beach, and O'Galley. This is headed your way. Let me put a storm track on this. First thing I want to do is make sure I'm out far enough, but I think I'm going to be. Shouldn't be an issue. Now, here's my take on this. This activity is almost building due east, all right? So I'm going to take this part of it, which at least at this point in time, doesn't have a special weather statement. And I'm going to pull it basically due east at about 15 miles an hour. Regardless of whether this storm ramps back up again, we got some heavy rain and lightning coming into these areas of Brevard County. They include our friends in Vieira North at 708, Suntree 712, Pineda at 715. So from the Pineda Causeway, Wickham Road, Fisk Boulevard, areas like that up north to Vieira. Then back down to Palm Shores, O'Galley, Satellite Beach, Indian Harbor Beach, all likely impacted by some wet weather relatively quickly here. So again, these storms likely building off towards the east. If nothing else, some heavy rainfall, a lot of clouded ground lightning. Could again see the spaceship kind of clouds rolling back over the Indian River, Banana River. Low shelf clouds, we saw those from our cameras in Orange County, so those could be building in. Obviously, the thunderstorm is even more robust, a little bit more south and west, and we'll have to see just how quickly east it moves compared to south. That's the outflow boundary right there. This is the East Coast sea breeze. So additional storms could develop along that merger line back into this area. This is still the spot that I have the most concern about potential additional strong to severe development. All right. And then that would try and move into more populated areas near the coast of Brevard County. Again, as the storms move along the coast, they are likely to also slow down in nature a bit. So potentially heavier rainfall in areas of some ponding on roadways and hopefully no water over roads, but picking up a quick maybe 1.5 to 2.5, maybe even 3 inches of rain, not out of the question. So they've expanded the special weather statement, very large. We'll see whether that's going to fully take over the severe thunderstorm warning, or whether a pocket or a smaller area of this larger special weather statement will still be holding severe thunderstorm criteria. Remember, the amount of rain and the lightning have nothing to do with a severe thunderstorm warning being issued. There's only 2 criteria, winds and hail. For a severe thunderstorm warning, you have to have 60-mile-an-hour winds and or inch-sized hail. Anything less than that, maybe down as minimal as a 40-mile-an-hour winds, they could issue special weather statements. So the new special weather statement is until 7:15, southeast at 23, Palm Bay, Camp Holly Fish Camp, Lake Marion, Holopal, Kenansville. All right, just sneaking into places like June Park down the road. All right, far eastern edge knocking on the door of I-95 in Palm Bay and Melbourne. And as I thought, and as I just said, does this take over the severe thunderstorm warning? And it does. Okay. Get back over to the chat. Hey, Chessie, good evening to you. In the house from Spring Hill, I'm doing well. Welcome to all of our mods. Talkie Talks says, lightning is insane here just south of St. Cloud. I bet it is. That is a nasty storm right now, still over that area. Again, just let it pass you by, but it is a light show and a lot of noise rolling through a lot of Osceola County right now. Enrique jumps into the chat saying it's starting to thunder really loud in Palm Bay. Beginning to head your way, no doubt. Tech and Games says North Alligator Lake is beginning to dry out a bit, just some sprinkles and calm. And that will be the situation behind these storms. You're going to stay with the overcast skies, my friends. You're going to stay with some light to moderate rain. But again, the storm intensity today has been thankfully a little bit lower. The strong and severe storms have not been as widespread, but they are still locally intense. And that's why I'm on the channel live. Again, I've been monitoring the situation for you guys all day. As the storms got over Metro Orlando, they kicked it up a notch. And so I knew it was warranted to jump on because I had a feeling that we were going to end up being under some severe thunderstorm warnings. And that has been the case over the last hour or so. So the movement of the storms, and I'll put this into motion for you guys so you can clearly take a look over the last half hour, continues to be off to the south and to the east, all right? If you're just tuning in, first of all, welcome. I hope you're doing well on this now Tuesday evening. North and west of Orlando, all in the clear for the rest of the day, all right? Could still see a veil of light rain up towards Altamont Springs and Sanford and Daytona Beach and Holly Hill and Wilbur by the Sea, but that's it. There's no additional stronger storms developing there. When we go out west, the line along I-4 and south still has the opportunity to pulse up a stronger storm. It's not going to be as organized as areas east, but you can see the intensity is beginning to pick up a bit right now through portions of eastern and northeastern Hillsborough County, and it is sinking to the south. So if you do live in Plant City, if you do live in Seffner and Brandon and Valrico, this thunderstorm is developing right now. I'm going to try and drift south of I-4 and head your way. Could spread into the western sides of Polk County. There's the cell that has worked its way inland into Pasco County. Saw someone in chat mentioning a little bit of rain over Spring Hill, just a little bit of a burst. Again, in our far western areas, when I go over to the Tampa radar site, there is still some activity out here. And just like yesterday, again, in the early evening hours, we had one severe storm in Pinellas County. Additional storms are kind of waiting in the wings to try and get back in here this evening. Now, when we lose the heat of the day, they'll fall apart a bit, but it still doesn't mean they're not going to be big lightning producers that could try and make a run to our west coast this evening. But for inland areas right now, it's about the storms that are in Osceola County, getting into Brevard, and eventually into Indian River County. This is, if you will, the last opportunity for some severe weather in Central Florida on this Tuesday. Once we get past sunset, these storms will die down, and they could potentially begin to lose a little bit of intensity even as we head through the 7 o'clock hour. Again, right now, no longer a severe thunderstorm warning, but still impactful storms. 350 lightning strikes is still no joke out of just this one view in the last 15 minutes. Again, wherever I move around the radar system, when you see that number of lightning strikes at the top of your screen, that's whatever view I'm showing you, how much lightning has been produced in that area in the last 15 minutes. We'll go back over to our multi-camera weather coverage for you guys. Again, still some gnarly looking clouds there in the southeast areas of the Metro Orlando areas. We look south and east from Sand Lake. Conway, not horrible at the hour. We're looking pretty good right now in Winter Garden. Again, just kind of basically filtered sunshine there. And then from, again, southeast Sand Lake, the Epic Cam we call it, because we can see Epic Universe in the distance and the fireworks display, not really in the distance, just behind those stand of trees, basically is where Epic Universe is, the new Universal theme park. Still, again, that thunderstorm moving away. If you look towards the horizon, that's going to be the tail end of it. And then slightly better from the southwest camera from Sand Lake. Looking farther west, things begin to thin out just a little bit more there. So the question is, if I could try and pick this out, is does it have to rain if thundering and lightning if there's no rain? I mean, look, there doesn't have to be rain for a storm to produce thunder and lightning. As a matter of fact, some storms can produce lightning 10 miles away from the parent thunderstorm. So it's always very appropriate, if there's a thunderstorm anywhere in your area, to go ahead and head back indoors. You do not have to be under the actual thunderstorm and have it raining for there to be some lightning in your area. Certainly lightning can develop ahead of a storm, and there have been plenty of reports, we call them bolts out of the blue or bolts from the blue, of lightning striking people, striking structures, striking buildings, whatever, well away from any other activity. But great question. Charles reminding everyone to have those notifications on. Appreciate that. Michael's in the house from Palm Bay, says that wind just hit southeast Palm Bay. Yeah, guys, you're going to get that gust front, right? That's that line that you guys can see on your map coming through. Now, the East Coast sea breeze is pinned along the coast. You'll get the gust front coming in. It's a nice cooling breeze. It'll feel quite pleasant. It'll shift your wind direction, and it will be the precursor for the thunderstorms to come in. So if you feel a little cool blast of air, you know you're close enough to those storms, you might want to get back inside before they arrive in your area. And we've seen a little bit of propagation or development with some of the activity, even south and east a little bit quicker. So again, right here is our convergence between the East Coast sea breeze and the outflow boundaries. It almost looks like a wishbone, right? And on the head of that, you're getting some development here. This is kind of, far western sides of Grant and Valkyria, west of 95. I mean, obviously here, again, I've got street level mapping. So you do have some neighborhoods here, if you know this particular area, west of I-95. Some development there. Likely to still try and make a run east of 95 too. Andrew, good evening from, oh God, how do you pronounce it? Leicester, that's right. I was literally thinking about, how do I pronounce it? And then I saw you put it in me as well. In Central England, a pleasure to be with you this evening. Yes, welcome. Good luck tomorrow. I'm sure you're going to be an interested observer in the World Cup semifinals match for tomorrow. England plays Argentina tomorrow. Spain through today, 2-0. over France. Now, Andrew, am I going to be correct in assuming that Leicester City is your premier league team? I'm going to admit right now, I don't know a ton. Soccer was my main sport. My son loves it. One of my very best friends just came back from England, saw on the last match day of this year, he went to the Sunderland game. And he says he's now Sunderland for life because they were so nice to his group. Bought him all this stuff, bought him all these beers, took him to the tavern. They won or they tied, I believe, but they finished about as high as they ever have. So now he says he's Sunderland for life. Yes, correct. All right, excellent. Well, best of luck for tomorrow, my friend. Appreciate you tuning in from across the pond. Very cool. That's the great thing about YouTube, guys. You have no idea where people will find us, who's tuning in, and what their interests might be. Maybe they don't even live in Central Florida, but they just are very fascinated with the weather, or they're very interested in seeing how other people have to deal with some impactful weather. Again, our environment in Florida is very unique. We are surrounded by water on three sides. There's not too many large populated areas across the world that have sea breeze kinds of storms like we do. And we have a distinct wet and dry season here in Florida. And so a lot of folks are quite unaccustomed to the storms that we get, especially those who come and join us to the attractions. Obviously, we have a lot of tourists here in Florida, and I've spoken to so many of them over the years who just aren't quite familiar with the patterns that we see. So it's really cool because this can be a good educational tool for a lot of other folks as well. Sutherland is a very friendly place. Excellent. First of all, shout out to the name Scump Ape Meg. Says it seems like Tampa's been missing the rain. They need some. So again, at this point in time, your prevailing winds are west to east. It's going to take all the storms from the west coast sea breeze, move them to the east coast. East coast sea breeze is pinned, going to slow up the storms. Everything's west to east. We need to get a flip of the overall wind pattern for the storms to go from east to west. Now that happened Friday. If you missed the storms on Friday, I don't even know, but I was on live Friday tracking the storms that developed south and east and moved north and west with the downburst winds over the Mango area of over 70 miles an hour. So it's not as if Tampa hasn't had some good storms. It just hasn't been as frequent over the last several weeks and really over the last several months. Again, I've mentioned it. Farther west, drier, farther east, improving conditions, but we're still going to be in this pattern at least for the next couple of days. That energy in the northern Gulf is going to kick out winds aloft from the north and west, and it's going to drive these storms south and east. That's not going to change, at least in the short term. You're welcome, Lynn. Appreciate that. Yeah, Andrew, I'm sure it's a really different story than what you typically see there, indeed. I enjoy it as well. It can get to be a very prolonged season, basically starting sometime in May all the way through October, maybe even early November. We can have basically daily storms. Sometimes we get a break. Sometimes we have storms almost every afternoon. And the one thing about these storms, they're always going to come with a lot of lightning. So they're always impactful in that way. So that's one reason why I come on and track these storms. And we've had storms the last several afternoons that have produced 60, 70, even 80 mile an hour winds. So they can really have some energy with them. Now this thunderstorm is still looking really good on the south side. I know it's not in a largely populated area of Osceola County, but if for some reason your travel takes you down the turnpike and down 441, that's a big ball of lightning. There's 300 lightning strikes within this view. If you live in Yeehaw Junction, this is building and heading your way. As I've mentioned, in Brevard County, we are on the doorstep of seeing these storms. Again, the Melbourne radar. We're going to have that cone of silence. It's going to be a little cut off as it gets into this area, but watch out for the winds to begin to pick up in places like Vieira North, Suntree, on over towards Melbourne, West Melbourne, and June Park, back down to our friends in O'Galley and Palm Bay. Make sure I have our wind gusts on here as well. So a 31 mile an hour wind at the, where'd it go? That was like a tease. There we go. 31 mile an hour wind at the Weather Service office there at 6:12. That was a while ago. Again, we had some gusty winds produced out of some of these storms a little bit earlier. These areas are definitely going to get clipped if nothing else. I am going to switch over real quickly to the Tampa radar. Still keeping an eye on those storms in Polk and Hillsborough County. Right now, they're more garden variety. But you can see that this cell has pulsed up a bit. Now, as mentioned this term, the last few live streams as well, pulse thunderstorms. And what I mean by that is storms that can't stay organized for very long. They'll pulse up quickly, they'll produce some gusty winds and some heavy rain, and they'll die back down relatively quickly as well. But they could still be quite intense in a local area. So you can see that right now developing over the Gibsonia area with maybe even a little bit of smaller hail. And even Plant City has produced a 30 mile an hour wind out of this. So this is a decent storm in the northeast side of Hillsborough County, sneaking into the far western sides of Polk County at the hour. It's not going to be the organization that we have off towards the east, but an isolated, stronger storm, if you will, not out of the question out to our western areas. So back out, this is the Tampa radar here, and you can see that again, this activity sneaking over 95 now. Let's track it. At this point, I think as it gets out of that special weather statement area, it's not overtly strong. Now, again, this is going to be off the coast quicker than this, which is good. Some of the times of arrival into Brevard County. By the way, if you live in coastal Brevard County and you see that spaceship-looking cloud, let me know in the comment section. You can see that shelf cloud moving in. This is not as gnarly of a storm as what we had the last couple of days, but we could still have those lowerings. Always going to keep an eye out for a little bit of spin in the atmosphere. Again, the friction difference between water and land always gives you some inherent rotation. That's why when we have landfalling tropical storms and hurricanes, the whole system is already spinning, and as they move inland, you get the friction difference. That's why we can have tremendous amounts of tornadic activity embedded within some of our tropical storms and hurricanes, because there's just that much more spin coming in. But for today, looking at times of arrival, Melbourne Village right now, Suntree 7:06, West Melbourne 7:10, Palm Shores 7:11, O'Galley 7:13, the Melbourne area at 7:19, Indian Harbor Beach 7:24. We've got Satellite Beach 7:26, and the Atlantic 7:28, and the Melbourne Beach area at 7:31. So Melbourne Village right now and Melbourne Beach in at 7:31. Again, not necessarily crazy intense weather in those areas, but it wouldn't shock me if we have winds of 30 to 40 miles an hour and some torrential downpours and a fair amount of lightning. South of there, where we actually have our special weather statement, let's pick it up from here. Again, the storm beginning to sneak towards Grant and Valkyria. Let's track that out for you. Again, still some of the same areas I mentioned earlier. Grant, Valkyria 7:20, Malabar 7:22, Miko 7:40, Barefoot Bay area, Fellsmere 7:41, Roseland 7:47, Sebastian in at 7:53. So getting into the northern sides of Indian River County. Now that's kind of the east side of this special weather statement, but the worst of it has basically moved due south right into Yeehaw Junction. So again, that's the worst part of that particular cell. If I zoom into a really tight spot, guys, this is not many square miles, and you've got 250 plus lightning strikes. You see the purples, you see them flashing, the neon blues, really high reflectivity. I'm almost concerned enough to take a quick second and make sure we don't have any hail here, because we could. Let's check that out. The radar believes that we do. Now, I'm glad to see that we're looking at maybe 2/10 to 3/10 of an inch in size. It's pea-size hail for the most part. But if you happen to live in Yeehaw Junction and you're tuning in, not out of the question that we're going to have some small hail moving into that area. Other little spots of very baby hail, not even coin size for today, through other areas of our special weather statement. But again, just a little bit of hail here down south and west. Sea Life, good to see you. Appreciate you tuning in. Hearing thunder now in Melbourne. On a bound, Acceptance says menacing skies now looking east from Lake Wales. And reminding everyone to stay safe. Is it Julin? Again, y'all's handles are just as wacky as mine is, so it's hard to delineate sometimes your names. Apologize for that, but YouTube made that change, so instead of your username, I get your handles these days on the old chat. Vieira, fine so far. Appreciate that. Thank you for letting me know. And Tammy K. Hagar comes in and says, love this feed. Well, I appreciate you tuning in, and thanks for saying so. Appreciate if you're in the chat, hitting that like button for me, subscribing to the channel. Again, it's a live-only channel, guys. I'm only on when there's impactful weather. So notifications on is something I would suggest for this channel. You guys do you, whatever you want to do. But if you have all notifications on, first thing is you're always going to know when I'm on. And the second thing is you're not going to get a lot of notifications from the channel because you're only going to get one when I'm actually on covering some severe weather or impactful weather here in Central Florida. So you don't have to worry about getting reports every day. Now, that being said, it's been a quite active forecast lately, and I've been on almost every day, which is fantastic to cover these storms. And, again, if they're out there, I'll be on. And if they're not, we'll all get a little quieter evening. Live look from our Sand Lake camera one more time from the southeast here, looking back over Epic Universe, the new Universal theme park in the southern side of Metro Orlando. Again, we're tracking that special weather statement storm as it moves out of the area. The other thing about me, and I think if you guys have known me long enough here, if you've been a friend of the channel, if you've known me from my television work as well, is that I always call it like I see it. Look, Florida, we have enough activity. I've seen it all. No reason to hype up anything. If I think you're going to be quiet the rest of the evening, I will certainly let you know. I do expect northern and western areas to be quiet from Orlando to the north. Still some light rain over Daytona Beach. I've mentioned this a few times. The one area is the opportunity for a few cells to come inland along the far west coast, just like we had yesterday. So we've seen a couple of showers here on the northern side of Pasco County into Hernando County near the Bayport area, maybe towards Chassahowiska and the Sugar Mill Woods area of southern Citrus County. A few showers, rogue showers, if you will, could try and move in. Now, this looks a little bit more ominous, right? But that is with the larger system off to our north and to our west. And as we lose the heat of the day, a lot of this activity should actually wane in intensity. I can't rule out that some of this does make the coast, but it's likely to not make it as intense as it is right now, right? That would be producing, as you can see up here, special marine warnings off of the Big Bend area and portions of the Panhandle. So that's what that blue is. That's a special marine warning. But there are some storms lingering off of our west coast. Because this storm is going to work its way off the coast of Brevard County, they've also issued a special marine warning. And again, these are issued well ahead of time to give boaters and mariners a lot of time to get back into safe harbor. So well ahead of the actual storm moving into coastal waters, they're going to hoist up those special marine warnings. Hopefully at this point in time, all non-commercial vessels are already back into safe port. But if for some reason you know anyone who might be doing a little bit of fishing or, again, enjoying what could be a very nice sunset across beach areas, beautiful. Again, that's where I was this weekend in Satellite Beach. Beautiful area here along our East Coast. Make sure they're aware of these storms coming in. Sometimes you're so focused on looking offshore and enjoying the beach that you don't spin your head around inland and you see what's coming from inland locations. Again, this part of the cell here continues to look fairly significant, beginning to pick up some potential hail, even building back into some of the higher reflectivity north of Yeehaw Junction. But Yeehaw Junction itself is about to get hit pretty good. Let's check the winds here. The good news is that the wind profile, well, this is out of Tampa, isn't it? Yeah, let me switch over to Melbourne just for the winds here. We're too far away to see the winds. But again, that gust front that has moved through Yeehaw Junction is no joke. You see those bright pinks and reds? There's some pretty darn strong winds. All right. See, this thing cooperates and shows me what I want it to show me here. There we go. So you do have some pixels here that could be, that outflow boundary looks pretty gnarly. And again, the Melbourne radar is not far away. So we had some very strong winds move through Yeehaw Junction. If you live in Fellsmere, they're going to try and make a run for you. They're not as strong overall a little bit farther north, but there still are some pockets of extremely heavy winds. Now look, the radar is also in it. Could be a little congested. Some of these values may not be exactly true, but I would expect up and down this line easily 30 to 40 mile an hour winds and maybe even some higher gusts of that, potentially even 50 plus. Just look, the special weather statement's for 50. So let's respect the higher end of that. But could there be some outflow winds that push even higher than that for a brief time through an area? Not out of the question. Kevin's getting some rain in Lakeland right now. Harold getting some strong wind and heavy rain in Palm Bay. Now, Harold is getting some strong wind and heavy rain in Palm Bay, but Michael just said light rain in southeast Palm Bay. So again, it is somewhat area specific, maybe not the entire city. We know that. So that is another great thing. Multiple people coming in from nearly the same area, but with different reports. And that is very common in Florida. We know how it is. It can be raining at your neighbor's house, cats and dogs. You're not getting a drop of rain. Here's one of our international viewers from Belize. By the way, I do have another channel. It's called Media Mundo. It is a Caribbean and Bahamas forecast channel. And I did put out a video earlier talking about the potential for flooding in Belize. So you can check that out. A link to that channel is here on the CFLW YouTube homepage. If you'd like to support me in that way, that channel has over 70,000 subscribers. Jump on over, subscribe. Daily forecast for the Caribbean and the Bahamas, but obviously live when there's tropical storm and hurricanes. And by the way, if there's any tropical storm and hurricanes that will impact Central Florida, I'll be live on this channel covering it for you guys. There was a storm last year. I'm pretty sure it was Milton. We started covering that storm on Media Mundo. And then as the storm got into Central Florida, we switched it over here to the Central Florida channel. So whenever there's the storm here in Central Florida, I'll be covering it on CFLW. Otherwise, if there's other storms across the Atlantic Basin and the Caribbean, I'll be covering it over on Media Mundo. Hey, Joseph, how you doing? Dark but no rain at Florida Tech. Appreciate that. Thank you for the information. KS World says good bit of lightning over here in Lakeland, north side of I-4. Yeah, again, I've mentioned this storm a couple of times. It's a healthy storm. Likely it's not even going to produce a special weather statement, but it's just a good, solid summer storm for us here that has kind of slowly drifted east. And that is going to be the movement coming out of northeast Hillsborough County and into the western and northern sides of Lake County. So Lakeland, Gibsonia areas there, right across I-4. And just situated over this spot, Kathleen included within that, should continue to try and make its way towards Polk City. And, you know, again, might hold on for another 15 minutes or so, but the storms that are out that far west are not likely to hold together as long as areas off towards the east. There's just a little bit more juice in the atmosphere here. Now, as we've hit 7:15, at least at this point in time, the special weather statement has expired for southeast sides of Osceola County. Look, I was tracking some really strong winds here. It's still not going to shock me if the Weather Service wants to hoist up another special weather statement. We may not be completely done with the advisories here. I'm just going to go back over the Tampa radar to do two things. One, again, to just look at that storm over Lakeland. Fair amount of lightning if I zoom in here. Solid 30 lightning strikes last 15 minutes, but obviously it's not the same as what we're seeing out east. You know, here we've got 340 lightning strikes. Storms moving over places like Suntree, Satellite Beach, Indian Harbor Beach, O'Galley, Melbourne. Again, solid storm, nothing outrageous. The last gasp of this at 7:17. Right now, Grant and Valkyria and Palm Bay, Malabar 7:19. Indian Harbor Beach, 7:20. Satellite Beach, 7:21. In the Atlantic, 7:21. So many of them are all the same time frame. I almost feel like I'm reading the same city over and over again. Melbourne Beach at 7:22. And if you're new to the channel, do have the ability to street level map, can literally get down to a street and tell you exactly to the second based on where the storm is and its forward speed when it's rolling over your area. So Indian Harbor Beach, again, 7:20 in 2 minutes and 36 seconds, that storm is heading your way. If we were in a tornado situation, just to give you an idea, literally I could say the tornado would be moving into the Barrier Islands in 10 seconds and moving out in 3 minutes and 26 seconds. So just to give you guys some of the ideas of the technical abilities we have on the channel as well. So street level mapping down to the second, tracking based on estimated times of arrival and forward speed. 16 in Melbourne is winds we can handle. A fresh breeze, if nothing else. All right, saltwater Sandy, quickly convert that to knots. We'll do the knot quiz. 1.15 miles per hour. I also have access to buoy data, if you guys remember from yesterday's stream. So I have all of the marine observation sites as well. So here's one near the Cape. We have a lot of buoys out west. We have a lot of buoys in Tampa Bay. So anytime there's a situation here where we've got some storms, we can also look at the buoy data as well. Well, I mean, saltwater Sandy, and you're in Melbourne, I'd assume you'd be able to convert it to knots very quickly. I could be wrong. But you do notice, by the way, that when the special marine warnings are issued, the winds will actually come up in knots. So that's basically 40-mile-an-hour winds, 34 knots. I don't know if anyone's ever picked up on that special marine warnings will then switch over to knots for the boaters. Lady Rose says, I wish I found your channel back then. I evacuated for Milton, but spent the entire time looking for good information. Well, that's part of the reason, why I do that. Look, there's no boundaries in the sense of that I cover what I want to cover, when I want to cover it. It's the great thing about being your own boss in that regard. I don't have any geographic boundaries in that nature. I certainly was well outside of quote unquote Central Florida as we tracked those storms, both Milton and Helene, by the way, as well. Look, Milton got me, had some minor home damage, but 80-plus-mile-an-hour winds where I live in Florida. And look, I'm a resident of Central Florida just like you guys. Born and raised in Crystal River, live in the Orlando area now, but I'm in it with you guys. And, when Milton was moving through, we heard it on the channel. You can go back and watch the live stream. It was gnarly, and I took some damage from Milton myself. So I'm there with you guys, living these storms with you guys every day. All right, Cheryl comes in and says Palm Bay is getting walloped right now. And you can clearly see the leading edge of this activity, despite the fact, again, regardless of whether there's a special weather statement or not right now, shows you that activity is moving right into our major populated areas from I-95, US 1, A1A, including Palm Bay. Really solid thunderstorm, guys. Now, again, with a forward speed in the 15-mile-an-hour range, hopefully in and out relatively quick. I have not seen any severe criteria with the winds. The Weather Service is keeping a really close eye on that. I'm going to switch over to our wind product here one more time. The one thing that allows me, that I can do here, especially for the Melbourne radar being so close, is just get a good idea of these winds that are being produced. Now the Melbourne radar has to cooperate and give me its last scan. If I ask very nicely, maybe it will. See that? Ask very nicely. Again, with the storm being over the radar site, some of this data can be really congested. You can throw, in a general sense, when you have a little peak like this and everything else is very weak around it, you can throw that out. Could there be, and again, I don't want to say there's 60s here. Weather Service would issue at least a special weather statement. But the bottom line is Palm Bay to Malabar, there's likely some areas of pretty strong wind right now. Hard to give you an exact number because we're all over the place here with the storm being over the radar. But then crossing the river and over into the barrier islands, winds could freshen up there as well. But that is the spot where there are some extremely strong winds. Then as we get a little bit farther away, again, still can't discount what I'm seeing here with these winds. If anyone lives in Fellsmere, let me know. But other areas of Indian River County, as this storm has gone through Yeehaw Junction, 50 plus mile an hour winds. I'm a little surprised that we don't have a special weather statement unless I had to look and make sure that I still had those layers on, and I promise you I do. That would have been a bad one. I have another backup that lets me know whether there are special weather statements or severe thunderstorm warnings outside of my radar system you guys see live on the screen. That one wouldn't have been fun. So I am surprised based on the gust front winds here. Now, again, maybe you get the gust front and it's 50 plus, and then into the storms, there's not much, and they're not expecting the actual storms to produce winds of even over 40. But these are still quite impactful for a variety of ways. And obviously, torrential downpours moving through this area as we speak. O'Galley, Indian Harbor Beach, as far north as Satellite Beach and Suntree, potentially Patrick Space Force Base. Little gnarly up there, 30 mile an hour winds, nothing horrible, kind of on the north edge. Certainly sharpening up a bit, Palm Bay, Malabar, Grant, and Valkyria. And then back down towards Mickle and Barefoot Bay. Wilford, if you want to send me a video, mymediamundo@gmail.com. You can find that both on this page and on the Media Mundo YouTube homepage as well. Stay safe in Belize. They were in store for some significant rain today. Yes, indeed. Feel free to join the chat. Just like John the Beagle Dad coming through and saying hi. Don't really want to give anything away, but we do have a new member of the family joining us soon. But I'll have more details on that coming up. But John the Beagle Dad's handle kind of got me thinking for a second. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in. If you're here, hit that like button for me. If you haven't subscribed, do that as well. Hey, Granny C, heavy rain and thunder and lightning in Melbourne. Question is, how likely is an overnight storm in Pinellas County tonight? It's a tough forecast for me to sit here and say your chance for a storm in Pinellas County is 40%. What I will say is you definitely have an opportunity, all right? Because these storms will try and make a run east. As we get towards sunset, the storms are going to fall apart a little bit, and so they're going to be very isolated. So it's low, but it's not zero. And that's the best I can give you right now. This is not a clean forecast with all of the activity out west right now in that trough that's still producing a heck of a lot of thunderstorm activity in those areas. If I bring on the radar here, you guys will just see it's a mess out in these areas, and waves of energy is kicking through, and another little chunk could come out from the East Gulf and make a run towards our coastal sections. So don't be shocked if you get a little bit of that. You can see the motion and the development throughout the afternoon hours. See how it's built up a little bit more. And then as we get to sunset, that activity will probably come down a bit. But we had a few storms the last couple of evenings, been able to make it. Again, this is not a typical, just normal sea breeze interaction for today. We still have this trough in the mid-level energy up to our north and east. The winds have been in that direction, pushing from the northwest to the southeast. And every day, the Storm Prediction Center has hoisted up some level of potential development of severe weather on a daily basis because of that mid-level instability. So it's enhancing the sea breeze. But all the movement is still going to be west to east, at least over the next couple of days. But great question. Same for Tampa, absolutely. Wesley Chapel, the farther inland that you go, the lower the chance. Coastal sections of Citrus, Levy, Pasco, Hernando, Pinellas, Manatee, Sarasota, especially Pinellas North. You can see there's not as much activity down towards Anna Maria Island and south. Those areas have better chances. They'll fade as they move inland. Look, could a storm still hold together across 75 and get into Wesley Chapel? Yes, but it's an even lower chance than places like Newport Richey and Tarpon Springs. Spud says on about a half mile due east of Melbourne, radar squall line just passing now. Rain coming down 2.5 inches an hour currently. Appreciate that. Yeah. So again, we weren't tracking 4 and 5 inch per hour rainfall rates today, but 2.5 is solid. At least there's some forward speed to this, meaning that we do see these storms moving east at around 15. So Spud's getting 2.5 inches per hour. He's not going to get 2.5 inches total, likely, because that storm has enough forward speed where we're not going to drop 2.5 inches over his head in an hour's time frame. But it gives you an idea. It's always a good indication of where there could be some potential flooding and where the most significant storm activity is likely to be moving as we go through time. So appreciate that report. 2.5 inches an hour sounds absolutely right based on what we're seeing. Certainly portions of southern Brevard getting a little bit of storm there, no doubt about it, David Royal. Sea Life says really windy and light rain in my neighborhood in Melbourne. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to just be a tremendous amount of rain. The wind profile with this cluster of storms is quite broad. This is the strongest wind gust that we've had in a little bit of time here in Melbourne. 39 mile an hour wind gust 9 minutes ago. So solid 40 mile an hour winds. Again, little surprised we don't have a special weather statement with these storms. They're probably near that criteria. Sometimes the Weather Service office won't issue special weather statements right along the coast because of how quickly the storms will be moving offshore. They don't like to issue them for like less than 15 minutes. If they think that this storm is going to be in and out of coastal areas quickly, that's one reason why they might not pull the trigger. Other times it's a very marginal event, and other times, and it happens very infrequently, but other times they just miss a storm that pulses up and produces winds of over 40. Michael has 3/4 of an inch already in his neck of the woods in Brevard. Okay, thank you, Wilfred. So Garen asks about, when the sea breeze storms are coming back out west. Again, in the short term, they're still west to east with all the activity and the energy that I already mentioned north and west. That could linger for a while up there. Now, I'm not expecting, and it was even a low end chance yesterday's models, tropical models, of that developing into anything tropically, okay? But it's still going to be an influence on our weather for some time to come. So until we get prevailing winds to go from east to west, these storms are going to develop on western areas and march their way east and get stronger deeper into the evening that we go in our eastern, interior, and southeast sections. So that storm movement is not likely to change much. Remember, we are still fighting a little bit of Saharan air, a little bit of drier air in our southern areas, but these storms have been able to overcome that the last several afternoons. Today, the storms were not as widespread. Generally speaking, they weren't as robust, and we had a few severe thunderstorm warnings, and that's why I was on. Again, I was tracking these storms. It's always my call, if you will, whether I come on or not, but I want to make sure that you guys know when I'm on that there truly is impactful weather, rather than just tracking our traditional sea breeze storms that are not likely to be severe or produce special weather statements. I want you guys to know that there's a bar that I've set to come on during these live streams. And I saw those storms pulsing up over downtown Orlando and knew there was an opportunity for them to turn severe farther south, and that did play out for today. Generally speaking, the next couple of days, I would expect the storm activity, once it develops again, to still be even maybe more isolated than what it was for today, and potentially the higher end storms come down a notch as well. So it is a daily basis because of that mid-level energy north and west. Even I don't have a great handle on the next day yet, and the Storm Prediction Center doesn't have it as well, because typically if we're going to fall under a severe risk, they want to give you at least a day's heads up. So, if they thought we would be under a severe risk for storms tomorrow, they would have already issued a marginal risk for tomorrow. They haven't been doing that until the morning of. every single morning the last 5 or 6 days. We haven't fallen under a severe risk of storms until the day of, which is a little unusual, but it's an unusual pattern if you catch my drift. Granny C says it's very dark in Melbourne. Good to see new and old friends reaching out here in Brevard County. Again, this storm continues to track off towards the east. Winds of around 40 in a couple of areas. Satellite Beach, Indian Harbor Beach, places like Indian Atlantic and Melbourne Beach will be included with the brunt of this storm. Again, not a severe storm, but an impactful one. Fair amount of lightning, 85 lightning strikes. Nothing outrageous, but folks in the chat letting us know that it's still raining cats and dogs in a couple of spots, maybe 2.5 inch per hour rainfall rates. Still more lightning in a tighter cluster back down into Yeehaw Junction. That's still 200 lightning strikes in a 15-minute time frame in southeast Osceola County. And again, that storm swinging over into portions of Indian River County as well. You have to take lightning very seriously in Florida. People always ask me, when is it going to be safe? I say that's always your personal opinion. But if you're asking my opinion, you try and let 30 minutes lapse since the last clap of thunder you heard. I know it might be difficult to sit indoors and wait 30 minutes, but if you want to be truly safe, that's the number. That's why if you live in Central Florida and you have kids, that's why the schools do the 30-30 rule, right? They won't release the kids until 30 minutes after the last thunder. So again, just keep an eye on this storm. It has held its intensity, hasn't gotten any stronger in Brevard County, still holding on in southeast Osceola. Look, quite honestly, if they were going to issue a special weather statement, it would be for southeast Osceola, kind of sneaking into western Indian River County. I think with this clustered up here, they're not going to issue anything. I think we're also getting deep enough into the evening hours here at 7:30 where they're not likely to pull the trigger on anything else either, because storm intensity should begin to wane a bit as we lose the heat of the day. I'm just going to pop on our buoy data one more time. Nothing outrageous there. Storm looks to be cooperating near Lakeland. Again, it's died down. These are pulse storms. They come up quick, produce heavy rain and lightning in a 15 to 30 minute time frame, and then they die back down. You want to talk about a couple of cells trying to make a run into Hernando County. There you go. Little shower over Sugar Mill Woods, Chassahowiska area of southern sides of Citrus County, Bayport area. Could see a little bit of lightning there. So that is your isolated but non-zero chance for some of these storms to get it into the West Coast. Now, I know this looks healthy, but again, this has looked healthy the last several evenings this far offshore of the West Coast. And once sun goes down, some of these storms begin to fall apart. Not all of them do, but some of them do. CWTDF says stable rains and occasional thunder here in Northeast Palm Bay. Appreciate that report. Thank you for taking a second and letting me know in the chat. Again, this interaction is very important. It's, I would say, even vital to having this interactivity for this channel that we want. It's the wisdom of the crowd kind of thought. Again, one thing that you can get with me on this YouTube channel is live interaction that you can't get anywhere else. So I like to keep that chat going, and your information helps me out a lot, helps out everyone who's watching the channel. Look, I'm a lurker on some channels as well, and I get that, but if you are comfortable enough just to jump in the chat and say hi, I appreciate that. Remember, interactions in the chat and you guys liking and subscribing, the YouTube algorithm loves that, and it will suggest this channel on other people's YouTube homepages who don't even know we exist. So if you want to help out the channel in that regard, I promise you it does more good than you even can imagine. And maybe you are a new viewer and you saw this channel on your homepage for the very first time this evening. well, those in the chat and those liking helped push that into your homepage feed. Luna says heavy rain and thunder in June Park. William says our high temperature on our weather station said 103 and a heat index of 113. It was quite gross through a lot of central Florida today. And again, these areas have not seen storms so far, which is why the storms continue here with the leftover activity north and west. Again, we've stabilized the atmosphere. We're not expecting any additional storm activity there. One more quick look at our cameras here at CFLW. As a matter of fact, because I can do it, right? And it's because I can do it. Let's just go 6 box for a brief time. And again, you're looking at some of the cameras that we have available across our network. We have Conway in the southeast side of Orlando. Overcast skies up there in the top left-hand side of your screen, just a little bit of filtered sunshine. Still fairly gray in Winter Garden to the western sides of Orange County. That camera can always show you a beautiful sunset. Sand Lake is represented on the bottom corner of your screen on the left, and then the bottom center of your screen. 2 cameras there, one looking south and west, one looking south into the east. So the one at the center at the bottom of your screen is showing you the storms moving away, looking south and east, and that's also looking over the new Epic Universe Universal theme park. And then of course we have our Lake Buena Vista camera on the bottom right hand side of your screen. That camera is just 1 mile from the Magic Kingdom property. Basically behind that stand of trees is the Magic Kingdom and the Epcot properties and Disney Springs and areas like that. We know in Central Florida there's always a lot of folks out and about in those areas, including iDrive and Sand Lake, so we have those cameras to always keep an eye out on that. Okay, my friends, it is 7:40. This storm continues to work through southern sides of Brevard County. Not expecting it to get any worse. Heavy rain, lightning, and storms, but it's been a while since we've even had a special weather statement. Storm is still pretty nasty over Yeehaw Junction and portions of Indian River County as well. I do believe that we're looking pretty good. Now, again, it's going to be a little bit rowdy for a time, southern Brevard County, but you guys are going to be just fine. I don't expect these storms to produce any truly impactful weather outside of some noisy activity here as we head towards the sunset hour. Likely not enough rain for even low-lying areas to flood. So we're going to wrap up this live stream for this evening, and we'll see when the next time we're going to be on. First things first, thank you for tuning in. Secondly, thank you for hitting the like button and subscribe. I appreciate the moderators of our chat. Those are in blue. Our moderators always keeping a close eye on our chat and helping to move along the conversation. Thank you to our subscribers. Those are the names in green. So members of the channel are names in green. If you're a member of the channel, that's the join button. You get access to exclusive member short videos in between these live streams, my behind the scenes thoughts, kind of giving you an idea of when I think we might next be on and what the weather might end up becoming. So if you want to support the channel and become a member, you can click that join button. You also have access to exclusive badges and emojis as well. You can throw those out in the chat. And again, just appreciate everyone joining me on this Tuesday. I do hope everyone has a great rest of your Tuesday evening. As always, I'm always monitoring the situation here in Central Florida. Still could have some active weather the rest of the week. It is kind of a day-by-day basis. I'll be monitoring the situation, but if we get more storms rolling in either later tomorrow or sometime later in the week, I'll be on the channel covering them for you guys live. Until I next see you, my friends, take care. Have a great rest of your Tuesday evening. I'll see you soon.